on WWL-TV. The spirit of Louisiana. This is Louisiana's news leader. Channel 4's Eyewitness News at 5.
2 months after the initial investigation into the Saints bounty scandal, the player penalties are announced. Linebacker Jonathan Vilma is hit the hardest, suspended for the entire season. And defensive end Will Smith, suspended 4 games. And 2 former Saints also got suspensions.
This is not as bad as that initial 22 to 27 players that could have really wrecked your football team.
I think this is appropriate. The punishment fits the crime. People have said, well, are they going to suspend? I mean, are they going to appeal? Well, they shouldn't appeal it. Just let it go.
Good evening, I'm Angela Hill.
And I'm Dennis Woltering. Jonathan Vilma calls his suspension an injustice, and he vows to fight it.
After weeks of waiting, the NFL announced the player punishments this morning, and Doug Mouton joins us now with the story.
The best news, we now know, and it's done, and we can move on. Jonathan Vilma is clearly not happy tonight, but a common reaction among fans and analysts, it could have been worse. Vilma out for the season, Will Smith for 4 games, ex-Saint and current Green Bay Packer Anthony Hargrove suspended 8 games, ex-Saint current Cleveland Browns Scott Fujita suspended 3 games. Vilma was the only player named in the initial NFL release when Sean Payton was suspended, and as expected, he took the biggest hit. Vilma tweeted his response this afternoon, saying, quote, "I intend to fight this injustice, to defend my reputation, to stand up for my team and my profession, and to send a clear signal to the commissioner that the process has failed to the detriment of me, my teammates, the New Orleans Saints, and the game." The Saints had already moved forward with a post-Vilma plan, signing 3 linebackers, including Atlanta's Curtis Lofton, in free agency.
The Saints were expecting this, especially with Vilma, because they signed 3 linebackers. This curious renegotiation they did last week with Vilma, he gave back $2.5 million. That doesn't happen. So I think all that entered into the fact that they realized Vilma would be gone, and they were crossing their fingers with the rest of them.
In handing down its penalties, the league went after team leaders. In its statement, the NFL said, quote, "No bounty program can exist without active player participation. The evidence clearly showed that the players being held accountable today willingly and enthusiastically embraced the bounty program. Players put the vast majority of the money into this program, and they share responsibility for playing by the rules and protecting each other within those rules." We saw a steady stream of team leaders at the Saints practice facility this afternoon. Guys like Scott Shanley, Pierre Thomas, and Roman Harper. None of the team's core players chose to talk on camera, but many thought Harper and others could also face suspension.
Could have been a lot worse when you consider it, and we don't know all the information. The scary thing is what we didn't know. So to come out of this with Vilma lost for the year and Will Smith for the first 4 games, to me, when you first initially heard that statement, you thought this might be a really tough shot, but this isn't nearly as bad as you originally thought it was going to be. But one thing I can say, thank goodness, I think it's over.
And that is a common reaction. The players do have 3 days to appeal their suspensions. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell would hear those appeals, and Jim Miller said he does not believe Goodell will lessen the penalties. The league said a significant number of players participated in the bounty program, but they say the players disciplined participated at a different, a more significant level. Again, it is over. Could have been much worse. That's a common theme you're going to hear. We'll have more on it in sports.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. The NFL Players Association released a statement today in reaction to today's penalties. The executive director, DeMaurice Smith, says the NFLPA has still not received any detailed or specific evidence from the league of these specific players. We have made it clear that punishment without evidence is not fair. We have spoken with our players and their representatives, and we will vigorously protect and pursue all options on their behalf.
Many Saints players are reacting to today's news on Twitter. Backup Saints quarterback Chase Daniel tweeted, "I was standing right next to Jonathan Vilma when he found out about his suspension on SportsCenter. Really? He has to find out about it that way?" And Saints linebacker Scott Shanley tweeted, "To take an entire season away from Jonathan Vilma is absolutely ludicrous. Portraying him in the way the NFL has done by blasting him on ESPN and Sports Illustrated is crazy and not fair. Trust me."
Well, we're getting mixed reaction from Saints fans we talked to this afternoon. Some say they're surprised. Others say the punishments were justified.
I think the suspension is a little harsh. I think we've done a little damage to the franchise, and I'd like to see the Saints respond back positively, as I think that they will, and I think we'll have a good season. But I do think the league was a little harsh on the penalties.
They got caught lying to daddy. You know, I've been a Saints fan all my life, but if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
We're also getting several comments on the WWL-TV Facebook page about the Saints player punishments. Alice Rachel writes, "Wrong on many levels. If the penalties didn't occur on the field, where is the evidence?" Mary Fisher LaFollette writes, "We'll be okay. We got guys that can step in. Funny that we don't see some of the other players that I would think would have a suspension."
And we have much more coverage of the Saints player punishments on our website, WWLTV.com, including the NFL's complete ruling.
And because of our breaking news this morning on the bounty penalties for the New Orleans Saints, we will be re-airing The Young and the Restless overnight. It will now air in full at 2 o'clock tomorrow morning.
After all the news came out about Saints player bounty punishments, football fans got some tragic news about the death of a former NFL star, Junior Seau. He was found shot to death in his California home today. Police say it appeared to be a suicide. 43-year-old Seau was a standout linebacker with the San Diego Chargers, who he led to the Super Bowl following the 1994 season. He also played for the Miami Dolphins and New England Patriots before retiring after the 2009 season.
It has been a while since we have seen any real rain around, but that ended today. Some parts of southeast Louisiana have seen heavy rain. Eyewitness News viewers Chad and Nicole Terrebonne sent in these pictures of flooding in Tangipahoa Parish. The National Weather Service reported extensive street flooding in Amite, where up to 4 inches of rain had fallen this afternoon. And the French Quarter also saw some heavy rains move through this afternoon. We could see more rain through the evening. Jonathan Myers is in the Weather Center with a look at just what we can expect. Jonathan?
Yeah, and we still do have a flash flood warning in effect for the area around Amite in central Tangipahoa for about the next 10 minutes or so through 5:15, and brand new now, a flash flood warning for north central Ascension Parish, including Gonzales, and south central Livingston Parish until 7 p.m. Radar estimates of up to about 3 inches of rain have possibly fallen. An additional 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall, and that could cause some significant street flooding in this area. Let's zoom right in on this newest flash flood warning. And you see here over the next 60 minutes hanging on to some of those reds and oranges and yellows in the Gonzales area. That again could cause some significant flooding in low-lying areas as well as some of the streets in that area. The good news is here in the city things are nice and quiet, and it doesn't look like we're going to see all that much rain activity over the next 60 minutes. But could there be more rain on the way for tomorrow? And how about Jazz Fest? Well, we'll talk about that in my full forecast in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan.
Breaking news regarding the Gulf oil spill settlement. Federal Judge Carl Barbier has preliminarily approved a proposed class action settlement that would resolve billions of dollars in claims against BP. Today's ruling allows the settlement process to proceed, though the judge will hold a fairness hearing later this year before giving final approval. Tonight, family and friends are planning to remember one of 2 KIPP-believed students who was shot and killed in the past week.
The family of 15-year-old Brandon Adams will be holding a vigil tonight. The 8th grader was shot and killed late Friday night, and his girlfriend was found shot to death on Monday. Maya Rodriguez joins us live now with the story. Maya?
Well, Angela and Dennis, that vigil is set to get started here in about an hour at the corner of Montague and Higgins, where Brandon Adams was killed. And today the mayor weighed in on violence among young people. The murders of Kip-Believe College prep students Brandon Adams and his girlfriend Christine Marcelin are part of what Mayor Mitch Landrieu today called an unnatural problem: violence among young people across the country and in the city of New Orleans.
Young people shooting young people over silly things is just, it's mind-boggling really to the rest of the country.
Despite the high-profile violence, the mayor says murders are down this year, 13% down over last year. Still, he says the murder rate in New Orleans remains much higher than the national average, and more needs to be done to curb the problem.
It really requires people to, number one, be responsible for themselves and their family. Secondly, the amount of guns that are proliferating in the city are out of control. People can be more aware of that.
But those who live near where Brandon Adams was killed say turning the tide of violence is easier said than done.
We all are trying to change the situation, but the ones that need to be changing it, they blind. Nobody sees, nobody cares. You know, it's every man for themselves out here.
To try to deal with the violence, the mayor says the city has doubled the amount of work they are doing with NORD and doubled the amount of homicide detectives in the department. We will have much more from the vigil tonight at 6. We're live in the Desire neighborhood. Maya Rodriguez, Channel 4 Eyewitness News. Dennis and Angela.
Okay, thank you, Maya.
Still to come on Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock, a water main break in New Orleans East forces neighbors to boil water. We'll take a look at how long that problem could last.
And what's the best way to keep your brain healthy? Brain exercises or physical exercise? Meg Ferris has the answer next in Medical Watch.
Nearly a 5-mile stretch of New Orleans East is still under a boil water advisory tonight, about 18 hours after a water main broke. People who live in the highlighted area on this map are advised to boil water for 1 minute before using it. That's south of Hain Boulevard to Morrison Road and from Downman Road to Bullard Avenue.
Castnet Seafood owner Kent Bondi says he boiled nearly 500 gallons of water today after learning of the advisory around 7 o'clock this morning.
We had to stop the oyster processing this morning, and I don't even think they began the oyster processing. That was our first step, and we just started boiling some water, and we shut the ice machines down and all the fountain drinks.
Bondi heard the news through text messages from friends, but some neighbors nearby knew nothing about it.
They got up, washed up, and went to school. They used the water, but we didn't know it to boil it.
I took a bath, and I don't know if the water was, I don't know if I'm going to break out or something.
The Sewerage and Water Board says the boil advisory is a precautionary measure after a 30-inch water main failed at Morrison Road and Mayo Boulevard. Neighbors started reporting low water pressure shortly after 11 o'clock last night as water was leaking into the nearby canal. News of the boil water advisory was sent to the media shortly after 5:15 this morning.
A hot water boil advisory is a pretty major announcement that you make, and you've got to do the testing to make sure that you actually have to do that.
The Sewerage and Water Board says the boil advisory will be in effect until at least tomorrow afternoon.
We have to collect samples. We have to go through a 24-hour bacteriological testing period, and at that point, in consultation with the Department of Health and Hospitals, we'll make an announcement.
A city spokesman tells us a text message alert was sent this morning to residents signed up from those zip codes in New Orleans East. For more information, go to our website, wwltv.com.
Now turning to campaign 2012, Newt Gingrich has officially dropped out of the Republican race for the White House. The former House Speaker made the announcement this afternoon, saying he made the decision after losing contest in 5 states last week. Without using the word endorse, Gingrich did say he would vow to help Mitt Romney defeat President Obama in the November election. In Medical Watch, why certain women face worse discrimination in the workplace and how you can build a better, smarter brain. Medical reporter Meg Ferris joins us with these important stories.
Very important, and we will get to those interesting stories. But first, on a more serious note, 2 stories with new information on the brain and addiction.
As scientists can see more and more into the brain, they're learning that some teens are hardwired to be more likely to use drugs, including alcohol, and become addicted. Researchers have found diminished activity in the part of the brain that deals with impulse control. Teens with ADHD, which comes from a different part of the brain, also have difficulty inhibiting behavior. The brain research is important and comes at a time when the number of pregnant women addicted to opiates, such as oxycodone, has increased 5-fold in the last decade. So their babies are born addicted as well and have severe withdrawal symptoms and could suffer long-term brain damage. Neurobiologists are working on vaccines for drug addiction that show promise. If you're a woman and you're obese, a new study finds you will be faced with all sorts of discrimination in the workplace. It is less likely that you will be hired, more likely you'll make a lower starting salary, and less likely you'll be in a leadership role. Of course, research is showing more and more that obesity is tied to genetics. And finally, want a better brain? Put down the crossword puzzles and go for a jog. Scientists have now found that exercise appears to build brain tissue that resists shrinkage and helps cognitive flexibility. Exercise, they say, does more to help thinking than thinking does.
So we got to keep moving. Now, what's coming up tonight on Weight Loss Wednesday?
Weight Loss Wednesday. Angela, a new machine that promises after 1 hour in the doctor's office with no downtime afterwards, you could lose 1 to 4 inches. So how does it work? How does it compare to the other devices on the market? That's tonight at 10 on Weight Loss Wednesday.
Now, with Pinpoint Weather, meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Good afternoon, everybody. Certainly an active one with the radar pretty much covered up here in Ascension Parish. We do have a flash flood warning that continues until 7:15 p.m. in this area. Lots of lightning, lots of thunder, lots of heavy rain, an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain, maybe some street flooding there. Tangipahoa did have a flash flood warning earlier. That now has dropped at 5:15. And out east of that, we still do have some hefty rain that is falling across Mississippi. We do have a flash flood warning around the Mobile area, but that's just outside of our viewing area. Now, right around here in the metro area, we've got a couple of showers right around Almonaster Avenue in New Orleans East and I-10, so watch out for that. Otherwise, it's mainly just some very light stuff across Metairie and the city. Rainfall total so far today, boy, we have seen quite a bit, especially north of the lake. 3.72 inches at Kill, Waveland 2.39 on the Weatherling 4, 2.08 at Franklinton. Here in the city, the only amount I could find over an inch, 1.04 in New Orleans East at Henry Schomburg. Temperatures today held down by the rain on the North Shore, below 80 in some spots. A warm one though at Kenner, got some sunshine, made it to 88. This morning temperatures in the muggy 70s generally across the area. And a look outside right now, it is still muggy as we have the extra clouds around. And ooh, that's kind of a nasty looking shot. Cloudy skies, airport 79 degrees, 81 at Audubon Park. And cooler at Slidell with some rain around at 75. Humidity levels high, no surprise with the heavy rain, 79%. Dew point at 72, so that's sticky. Winds out of the south off the Gulf at 12 miles an hour. So what can we expect? Well, there's a disturbance over us right now, so we're going to diminish this as the disturbance moves north tonight from a 50 to a 20% chance of showers and storms into the evening. 10% chance by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. Then high pressure builds back in. So only a 10% chance of rain, although it looks a little worse than it actually is here during the day on Thursday for Locals Day at Jazz Fest. And on Friday, again, the bark worse than the bite with only about a 10% chance of a shower here. And Saturday, pretty much more of the same. Actually, it looks like we'll delete the chance of rain here as it becomes hot. Maybe the first run at 90 for the city this year. But for tonight, temperatures right around 70. Showers taper off, and it looks like it's just going to be foggy and muggy for tomorrow morning. Then a hot one for tomorrow afternoon. Could threaten records. The record at Kenner, 90. Audubon Park, 92. Going to be close within a couple of degrees, 88. 88 degrees on Friday and looking mainly dry to wrap up Jazz Fest weekend number 2, but hot. Could hit 90 degrees Saturday and Sunday.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Well, see where Drew Brees' contract stands now that the players' suspensions have come down.
Plus, one Saints running back is rallying the team after finding out about the suspensions of 2 of his teammates. Doug Bouton next with sports.
A lot of people saying just hallelujah, let's go on.
You can't begin to move on until you get past this. Now we are past that, and that is the good news. It's done, and the Saints can now move forward. And certainly it could have been much worse. Here's a breakdown again. Jonathan Vilma suspended for the entire season. Will Smith out 4 games. Former Saint Scott Fujita, who's now in Cleveland, suspended 3 games. And former St. Anthony Hargrove, who just signed with Green Bay, out 8 games. The league went after that quartet because Commissioner Roger Goodell said they were team leaders. Vilma's loss, not unexpected. The team signed 3 linebackers in free agency.
The players were leaders. They had a role in it. Vilma and And Will Smith obviously had roles in this situation with Greg Williams, and so it's appropriate that they should be fined or suspended. I can say fined, but it's appropriate they should be suspended.
The big loss is Will Smith. 4 games, back-to-back years you've lost Smith to start the season. Last year he didn't play the first 2 games because of the Star Caps incident, which lasted actually longer than the Bounty Gate incident occurred. You're going to miss him because of the fact he's been your most consistent football player and your best pressure guy.
Saints running back Mark Ingram offered this to fans on Twitter. Don't worry. They just making us hungrier and putting a bigger chip on our shoulder. Who Dat Nation will rise above it. The handing down of the penalties does mean the Saints now know exactly how much salary cap room they have and exactly how much money they have to work with to re-sign Drew Brees. Nothing new to report on Brees today. In fact, ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Saints and Brees are no closer to a long-term deal, and that little progress has been made, and that is what the Saints really need now.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Doug.
Back with a preview of 6 right after this.
Coming up new tonight at 6 o'clock, more on the Saints' player bounty punishments, including a look at how it will all impact the upcoming season.
Plus, the mayor's confrontation with action reporter Bill Capo. That's our news at 5 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here in a half hour at 6 o'clock. But first, the CBS Evening News with Scott Kelly.